everyone! Welcome to the channel dedicated to sharing the profound insights and wisdom of Andromedan Contactee Alex Collier. If you're new here, you're in for a journey that expands your mind and consciousness, bringing you closer to understanding the messages from the fifth density Andromedan Extraterrestrials. For those returning, we're grateful for your continued support. Before we dive into today's enlightening content, we have a small favor to ask. If you find value in the knowledge shared in this video, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your engagement helps us amplify Alex Collier's message, allowing us to reach a larger audience with these vital messages. We'd also love to hear from you, so please engage with the comments below. Whether it's a question, your thoughts, or even just an emoji for the sake of engagement, every comment counts. We read every single comment, and your feedback is incredibly valuable to us. Additionally, if you'd like to support us further, consider giving a super thanks tip by clicking the heart with the $sign. This small gesture allows us to continue bringing you more of Alex's messages, unfiltered and directly from his lifelong experiences with the Andromedans. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video.
Ladies and gentlemen, nice to be here for number 74. Thank you for supporting our little webinar, our little channel, and James and JP and myself. As you're aware, or maybe you're not aware, but YouTube has decided that they're going to start deleting and censoring anything that smacks or smells of a conspiracy. We're going to do our best to keep our stuff up, but we just don't know. It's all about controlling the narrative, and we've talked about that in the past before. We have a lot to cover today, and if you can recall, in several past webinars, and I believe I've spoken about this several times, I said that once the Cabal realized that they were in trouble, that they were losing control to the benevolence and the White Hats, that they put into motion everything that they had. All these regressive moves, they put everything in motion to try to stall, delay, trip up, and or get ahead of whatever the White Hats and the benevolence were doing. If you're paying attention, you are seeing this come to fruition. You are seeing all these changes. You are seeing all of this absolute moronic nonsense and behavior being bandied about everywhere, especially in the media. Here in the United States, it's particularly insanity. Now, the timing of this is not an accident. There have been several times in the past of humanity, our humanity, Homo sapiens sapien, of our humanity, where we have reached a plateau and we begin to awaken, to shift perspective to a higher frequency. And they've done pole shifts, they've done wars, they've done biological warfare, famines, all kinds of things, to make sure that that didn't happen, to keep us all, bottled up in their little barrel so that they can control us and feed us a dialogue and get us to believe a narrative of what reality is. Because as long as we believe that narrative of what reality is, we literally create that for ourselves, and essentially, we imprison ourselves in this narrative. And now they're really terrified because now we have some help. Now the narrative no longer works because we've been exposed to too much other information. So they're pulling out all the stops. And this isn't just here in the States, this is worldwide. Now, the timing of some of the things that are coming up and that have already come up is here to distract us from the awakening. It's to distract us from self-empowering ourselves, for humanity to make that shift in consciousness and self-perspective. So, because once we make that shift and it's permanent, we change our resonance. And what I'm talking about when I say we change our resonance, we change the resonance of ourselves and humanity. Our DNA vibrates at a higher vibration. Once that happens, then we're out. We're out of the box. We will never go back. So they're throwing everything in the world at us. As more and more people awaken, they're beginning to see the control and the manipulation, not only with the media, but with the government, with agencies of the government, with religions, etc. Now, what's interesting to note is that if you turn on virtually any media anywhere, you're fed this very negative, fearful, manipulative narrative. But I want you to understand that there are some absolutely remarkable things that are occurring all over the planet that are nothing short of amazing. Paradigm shifting things that are occurring. And a lot of that has to do with visitation. It has to do with starships showing themselves occasionally, okay, in very obvious ways. And I want you to write down this website. It's called Sky Watchers. The young man, I believe he's a Brit, gets photographs from people all over the world, and he posts them every day, sometimes several times a day. If he gets them right away, he just puts them up. His name is Matt Rogers. He, along with the other kids that I've given you in previous, such as Blue Kool-Aid and WSO, Secure Team 10, these kids are doing yeoman's work, absolutely yeoman's work. And they're doing their best to keep everybody up to date with what's going on. Now, a lot of times we're not seeing our own skies. Okay, holographs are being used to mirror what's going on and what is in our atmosphere. Okay, you need to be aware of that. Some of these particular sites, you can see the holographs being turned on and literally covering and making objects in our atmosphere go stealth. It's quite remarkable, really, just so that you know. But I need you to understand is that these aren't negative or regressive beings. If they were, we'd probably already be gone, okay? This would have been over. But it isn't over because we have value. Humanity has value. And we have apparently a lot to bring to the galactic family. And we're going to be given that opportunity. Now, what we do with it is an entirely different thing. But let's just talk about some things that are also occurring. Scientists, physicists, all over the world have come to the conclusion that the mind doesn't store memories. The mind is memory. Now, sit with that. The mind is memory. The implication is, based on the work of the Blue Brain Project, where they have been able to map the multidimensionality of the brain, is that the brain already contains all the information we have and are. All of it. Past, present, and future. Now you have to remember that when we're talking about the past, when you're dealing with lifetimes on Earth, you're dealing with occurrences that have happened in the past that are historical accounts of things that have happened on Earth in the past. If you've had other lifetimes in other worlds, that is not necessarily the past, because the timelines do not match up. Okay? What could have been the past what you determined to be or think is a past event could have been a future event or a present event in the now, because you are a multidimensional being. So what other aspects of you are doing out there, the information, regardless of where you are physically, is being downloaded and shared into you. Do you understand? All right? It's any future life that I have, or am I having as we speak, whatever those events are, is being downloaded into my brain. The reason for that is I'm a resonant being. I have a frequency. I'm a presence in other dimensions at the same time that I'm here talking to you. This means you as well. It's all a matter of changing the perspective of who we think we are. The awakening is not just about being aware of our environment and the reality of whatever narratives and manipulations we are presently faced with in this reality. What it really means is the awakening is changing the frequency, the resonance of our DNA, which allows us access to the multidimensional aspects and memories in our brain that currently exist and are currently being downloaded. So what that means is, when we awake, truly awake, Earth will jump from fourth and then to fifth. We, the beings on this planet, those of us who are totally in line with her, that are in sync, whose resonance agree, and are in harmonic convergence, we help her jump. It's not the other way around. We help her jump. That's what we're here for. And what happens is we have access to the knowledge we already possess. It's already in us. And this is what the bad guys fear. Because once we're gone, we're gone. Okay? And they know that we're going to make sure that every other little civilization that's just getting started, we're going to be their champion. You see, we're going to know. And we're going to come to their aid. Because that's who we are. Okay? We are system busters. We're not going to let this shit go on anymore. No way are we going to do this, because we have been through the ringer ourselves. And they know this. Not only that, but the physicality, the physical worlds that we have created of fear, poverty, anguish, anger, hatred, all that goes away. It all vanishes because it isn't real. It's only real because we believe it is. And they have convinced us that to have the perception that we're not able to be empowered, we're not able to control our destiny, that we are worthless sinners, that we are secondhand citizens, that we're a mistake of science. It goes on and on and on, all this rubbish. Okay? Now, many of you already do this. Many of you may or may not realize that you've already got access into some of your fourth dimensional reality, okay, or memories, because you practice visualizing and creating and seeing things intuitively that haven't manifested yet in the physical realm. Okay, you can use your imagination. You see specific events, how you want things to occur, whatever those things are that you're creating for yourself or for your family. And what happens is that you begin to manifest one or other scenarios regarding the outcome that you imagined and you visioned. That is fourth dimensional thinking. Many of you are already doing this. We have seers, we call them psychics, shamans who have the ability to see potential futures of people. Or maybe you get this out your kids or some of your friends, or maybe even people you don't even know. You'll get a particular hit of a particular future for them. Again, you're already tapping into fourth dimensional memories. You have the vision. That's 4D. So I want you to know that you're already using the tools. You already have them. Maybe you just don't know what to call them, but it's a lot more. There's a lot more to it than just the word psychic is really not appropriate. It's not. Okay? You see the future. You see a probable future, one of several. And that's because there's a part of you that has the ability to see into the fourth dimension. That's important to note, okay? Please be cognizant of this, because it's incredibly self-powering. And as things continue to progress, as things in the next year or two get nastier and nastier, and the media narrative gets horrific, surely just purely out of desperation. Remember to take the step back as the observer, all right? Because in that space, emotionally, you're not connected to the narrative that they're trying to create. And you see, that's the only way they have power over others, is if they can emotionally get you to engage in the narrative they're creating. Oh my God, it's horrible. The economy sucks, even though it doesn't. Okay? All these other things that are going on that are just blatant lies, like Russian collusion. And WikiLeaks got Hillary Clinton's emails from Seth Rich, who worked for the DNC. And the reason he got pissed off with the DNC and he gave them to WikiLeaks is because he was a fan and a supporter of Bernie Sanders. And he knows how Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hillary Clinton and Donna Brazile completely screwed him out of the nomination for the Democratic Party. Totally screwed him out of it. Okay, they stole the election. And he got pissed off, and he's the one who sent those to WikiLeaks. This whole Robert Mueller thing is an absolute sham. And basically what it is, he's trying to cover his ass. All right, Uranium One, during the Obama, first term of Obama, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, they made a deal to sell weapons-grade uranium to Russia. Right, that's collusion. And they used a company called Uranium One. Now, the first payload of military-grade uranium was delivered to Russia by aircraft. The person who flew that uranium to Russia was Robert Mueller while he was director of the FBI. He was paid $3.6 million after he delivered this, which is now sitting in an offshore bank account in Singapore. You see, these people are all trying to cover their own asses because they have committed treason. That's what this is all about. And the money to pay him came from the Clinton Foundation. So it's ugly. It is far uglier than you can even imagine. So just, sometimes I don't have the words. You have to know the scenario. You need the pieces to understand what's going on. And man, I know you don't want to go there. I so get that. But to truly understand their motives and their reasons for what they're doing, because to the uneducated observer, it really appears like humanity has lost its mind. Okay, well, for the record, most of humanity hasn't lost its mind at all. They're appalled at what's going on. But the narrative from the media is so negative. And essentially that's how they get you to believe it, is they just convince you that it's true, when it isn't true at all. They have no problem lying about anything because they've been doing it for years and years and years. Now, I'm bringing this up because there are some things going on, not only on the surface, but in our atmosphere. And there are two scenarios that are very, very probable that could occur by the Cabal, okay, the deep state, the Illuminati. And that is a fake alien invasion and or a pretend second coming. They could do this. I'm told this is still a possibility, and everybody is watching out for it. I do not know if they could even pull something like this off, but we are dealing with dimensional beings, human beings, that are very, very desperate. And you have to understand that they have had their way for many, 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 many years. And now they can't. And when they're being confronted with everything that they have done to humanity, the betrayal of humanity, from creating wars, from creating famines, from creating biological diseases, to purposely creating poverty, to purposely creating divisions amongst races on the planet. The illegal immigration of many countries, not only in Europe, but here in the United States, by particular cultures that will never conform or assimilate to the countries they're migrating to. All of this being done on purpose for the sole purpose of destroying nation states. Because a house divided cannot stand. And they know this. They've been doing this all on purpose. Okay? Because they're desperate. They're absolutely desperate. So they're capable of anything. I've used this analogy in the past, somewhere in the past, a couple times I think, where I likened to what was happening on Earth as a prize fight. Well, we're in the 14th round, okay, of the prize fight. It's a 15-round fight. We're in the 14th round. And our opponent, the dark side, is way behind on points. So it has to do something. It has to go for a knockout. Because the longer the fight goes and the less punches it hits or lands, and the more we do, the white hats, the benevolents do, the further they get behind and they eventually lose the fight. Well, we're in the 14th round right now. And which is why you're seeing all of these insane actions being taken by people on the planet. We have to continue to focus on creating the future we want. If you at all can grasp the idea that what you are right now is absolutely amazing. You already right now have access to past, present, and future. And that what you have to do, what I have to do, what all of us have to do in looking at ourselves is change our self-perception as to who we are. Because if we can create this nonsense, we can create anything. But how many of us really want this? I mean, the contrast is stark. It's right there in front of all of you. It's right there in front of all of us. Okay? The picture that the media and governments are trying to paint, that narrative, it's dark. It's really, really dark. Who wants that? Who really would choose that unless it was someone who is already in power and realized that the only way they could remain in power is to create this type of scenario, of this reality? That's no one I know. And I bet it's no one you know. So we have to thank the contrast, acknowledge the contrast, and then focus on what it is that we want. And most of us are all on the same page when it comes to creating a really good life for ourselves, for our families, and our loved ones. Okay? We just have to focus on that. And remember to use your multidimensional thinking capabilities. You can absolutely do it. You're doing it and not even realizing it, maybe, or you just don't know what to call it. But as the mind awakes, as our DNA resonance increases, the ability to physically manifest what it is we want will become faster and faster and faster. And we have got to be on top of that, okay? We do. Because, at the last count, I think there's 78, 79 star nations that have fully committed to this project here in our solar system. And we have to step up. We cannot let them down. We need to make every effort to become adults here and not justify war, poverty, destruction of ourselves. There is no way to justify that, okay? It's actually insane behavior. It brought up some stuff in the notes. Stuff I've never shared before. This will be the first time I'm sharing it. And it's about the Andromedans and their birth process. Now, according to Mornay, 25% of the Andromedan people, approximately 1/4, they go through a natural childbirth process. It's somewhere approximately around 25%. They choose that. Others who wish to have children, they do it outside the womb. It is their DNA, their and their partners. They are fully involved in the process of the child being born outside the womb. Many things go into that process, such as time spent being with the fetus throughout. And I'm focusing here first on those who have children born outside the womb. They have artificial wombs, and there are multiple of reasons why they choose to do this. Sometimes it's because of the particular work that they do, they cannot have a child physically. It could also be that the particular work they do means they would not be able to do it because of the child. It also has to do with other things that he simply chose not to explain to me. But some people prefer to have children born outside the womb. Now, what I found the most interesting, their gestation period is 8 months. The average weight of a child born in Andromeda on fifth density would be the equivalent of 34 pounds here. Okay, their stature is quite large, 7.5 to 15 feet. All right, that's a large stature body, so they can handle that. Now, the women who choose to have a natural childbirth, they actually pass that child themselves with what we would call midwives. Very, very similar from what I understand. Now, what's really interesting is this. They have a soul registry. Excuse me. In their culture, the moment the fetus has a heartbeat, a soul attaches to that form at the first heartbeat. Now, what's interesting is that by the first month, they know the soul that is attached to the body because they have a soul registry. And what they have done is they have recorded the harmonic resonance of everyone's DNA. It's not DNA markers or anything like that. It's strictly resonance, a frequency that is unique and different to every single soul. And you could be born multiple lifetimes in different forms of life and physicality, but your soul's harmonic resonance will always be the same. you take that with you because that is who you are. They have this register where they know who it is. Now, during the process, once they realize who that soul is, during the process of growing the baby, either in the mother or outside the womb, they give them education. They teach them. They bring things from their past and they make them aware of it now, so that when the child is born and brought out into physicality, it has a very, very clear idea of who it's been and who it is now. And that's not only helps the child integrate with the family he's with now, but it also helps the parents integrate with the child because they know his history or her history, who they've been in the past, who their other parents were, what type of occupations they've had, what type of behavior they've had in the past. So everybody is completely on the same page. Now, I asked if that would even be possible here on third density, and he said it's possible everywhere. They can even do it with animals. I do not know if that's actually being done here with us now. But I thought that was so interesting, and I had forgotten about it until I was going through the notes. That's pretty cool stuff. And it makes sense that the parents would be educated as to the life of the soul or the history of the soul that's now their child, so that if there are behavior issues, they're already way ahead of it and they understand where it's come from and what it's really all about. And they can, of course, address it in a much different way and even get ahead of it. If there were physical ailments, they would know about that as well, and those are things that could be addressed right away. Spiritual issues, they would know how to deal with that right away. But they do know who the soul is because they have a soul registry. And I thought that would be interesting to a lot of folks on the call. I would, if something like that is being applied here now, as we move into fourth, I would think that would be an incredibly useful tool for not only parents, but for the child. Because the child is also being shown who the parents are going to be and what their history is, their soul path has been. So everyone's on the same page, you see. And I just thought that was pretty enlightening. Let's see, we got a couple things here. Okay, we talked about the collusion. SES, I understand that many people, the Senior Executive Services is a group that is attached to has been attached to the executive branch of government. Now, on March of 2017, President Trump signed an executive order giving him authority to reorganize the executive branch of government, which means that after he breaks the after he breaks the oh my God, I can't believe I can't remember the name. The union. After he breaks the union, the Federal Workers Union, by having them out of work for so long, which is 31 days, I believe it is. He's going to have to do it again, but he's actually counting on it, from what I understand. He can let these people go. Now, I understand that this was a dry run, that they wanted to see which branches of government were really dramatically affected by this. The biggest one was the Department of Homeland Security, specifically TSA and airports, things of that nature. What's also interesting is that many airports have private security, federal contractors. And I understand that the president is looking at that now as a way of not only cutting costs, but it also eliminates a great deal of government infrastructure that isn't efficient at all, and it never has been. So that's interesting. In that is this group we know as SES, Senior Executive Services. Many of these people were put in place during the Obama years, and what they are is they write regulations for all kinds of things. Now, regulations are not actual law, but they're treated as such, okay? And they essentially write regulations that make it harder and harder for businesses to do business, for people to be free, for people to do anything, from even opening up a lemonade stand without a permit, without regulations, okay? It's just incredibly intrusive. Not only that, but this particular group, SES, has had control of the patent office and the copyright office for years and years and years. And that is not a positive thing. We have currently over 5,700 patents for free energy devices that can't get unlocked. My understanding is that a lot of it has to do with the regulations that were created around these patents by this group, SES. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, we should have had free energy 75 years ago. Okay? The technology's been around. Nikola Tesla tested it right here in Colorado Springs using the Earth's own resonance. And we should have been way down the road than instead of where we are today. But that's another story. There's going to be a change in the financial system. House Resolution number 25 has been introduced to Congress. It abolishes the Internal Revenue Service and the Federal Reserve System. The only people who wouldn't vote for that are those for the Cabal, who work for the Cabal. So you're going to want to pay attention to that, HR 25, right? Because essentially, if you get rid of the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue System, you do a complete reset. It automatically happens because all debts are wiped away. You start all over. Everybody goes back to zero. That doesn't mean you lose your wealth. It just means that student loans are gone. In many cases, mortgages would be gone, at least private, because the entire banking system, the way it's been set up, is completely unconstitutional. So there, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. You're not going to get it from CNN. You're just not going to happen, or MSNBC or ABC. And you know, I've even been very disappointed with Fox News lately. Okay, it's the alternative media is where this information is, because they're doing the real work. They're doing real journalism. They're doing the yeoman's work, digging it out, finding these grains of truth and, in these deserts of despair and denial. And what's interesting is that, and I was talking to James about this in the beginning of just before we started the webinar. YouTube is going to start going after all of these small channels, and whatever they deem to be conspiracy theory, they've taken it upon themselves to shut these people down and to unplug them and take them off YouTube. And none of these channels are, like Facebook or Twitter. They're small operators, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 viewers, subscribers, like ourselves, who do this amazing work trying to educate people about what's really going on. And it's just, again, this is the cabal. This is the things they put in motion. We have a First Amendment that guarantees free speech. And YouTube and Google and Facebook and Twitter, MSN, they're all like, well, no, that doesn't really mean anything. So they're going about it themselves, these corporate conglomerates, to hinder and to shut down and stifle free speech. That should tell you everything right there about who they really are and what their true agenda is. It's about controlling the narrative. Okay? They don't want you to wake up. They're terrified to have you wake up, because once you wake up, you're going to look back and you're going to realize everything that they've done all along the way. And it's bad. It didn't start out that way, but as soon as profitability became the issue, as soon as protecting corruption became the issue, as soon as protecting pedophiles and human trafficking became the issue, then they totally made the leap to the dark side. And that's where they are. They're on the dark side, most of them anyway. And I take no pleasure in saying that whatsoever, because I believe in our future. I believe in our potential. I know we're capable of amazing and great things, because many of us on a soul level have already done these heroic things in the past or in our future. We've already done them. So obviously you're capable of doing it. And I'm just so proud to be here at this time. It's tough. And I know you guys, you have your moments as well. It's Earth is it's tough. Someone asked me about the weather, the polar vortex. I don't know specifically if it's weather manipulation. I don't know, but I do know that the magnetic poles are flipping all over the place, because there is a physical body that is very close to Earth, which we can't see because they're holographing the shit out of our sky, that is pulling on our magnetic poles. There is something there. And as soon as I know what it is, I'll let you know. Okay? I also heard some information regarding Antarctica, and I believe Linda Moulton Howe actually presented this information. And I guess they found a structure underneath the ice, and On one of the doors, inscribed on the door, was the black sun. Now, I don't know if any of you remember what the black sun is. This is information that came out in the 90s. I don't know if it's still being spoken about, but the black sun was an order of Nazi SS officers who were working with and in contact with members of the Vril Society, and they were interacting with reptilian and groups of rogue Pleiadians from Alcyon, in particular Ashtar Sharon, okay, aka the Ashtar Command. They were sharing technology. What the Nazis were giving them, I don't know. But they were being given information and the ability to create technology. So this order goes way, way, way back. Now the narrative is that the ice on Antarctica is 234 million years old. That's how long this continent, they say, has been under ice. That's just simply not accurate. Okay. And someone knows that it's not accurate. It's more likely anywhere from 40 to 62,000 years ago. Now, let me explain. There is a map from the 1500s called the Piri Reis map. It's a map, a sailor's map of the world, which includes Antarctica with no ice on it. And it's accurate. The coasts, the harbors, the isthmuses, it's totally accurate, including the mountain ranges. In fact, it's so good you would think that somebody wrote it from the air. Now, there's no way that this map, or whatever map they got it from, is 234 million years old. Okay, which what science says is the last time Antarctica was covered with ice. It wasn't covered with ice. It's Boulder Dash. In the areas where the snow is melting down there, the flowers that are growing are not prehistoric flowers. Okay? Again, it's the narrative. And I know a lot of us are really busy with our lives, our children, our work, our careers, and we don't have time to do the research. But you have to stop and use common sense. Okay, this map exists. It was created in the 15th century. If it was a copy of something else, that something else would not have been 234 million years old. Okay? It just stands to reason. I also want you to know that I'm absolutely convinced, and I'm going to stick to this, is that I believe Antarctica is the land of Mu. That's what I think it is. Okay, so JP, I am ready for some questions. If there aren't any, then we can all go home early. But if there are, we will stay.
Can you hear me?
You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you good.
Okay.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Is the Captain Pure, the Elohim.
I didn't catch that, JP. You're breaking up.
Yeah, you have a lot of background noise. Let me try. I'll turn off my camera.
Okay.
Okay, is that any better?
Yeah, it's a whole lot better.
Okay. Obviously, my bandwidth is limited tonight. There's a lot of snow on the ground. Could you tell us more about the Elohim? I read about them in your book, Defending Sacred Ground. You mentioned that they were a race that kept their genetic line pure. Thank you. Sincerely, Mason.
That's all the information I have on them. I don't have any more information unless there's more in the notes, which I don't remember. I haven't gone through all of them yet. I'm having to separate the pages very carefully because many of them have been stuck together, courtesy of fluids from the mice. See how nice I said that? So I'm having to peel those things, but whoever asked the question, I don't have any more information on who they are than that. Wow, that goes way back too. That goes back almost to the beginning of the contacts. Okay, so we have another question.
Oh, yeah. Lauren is saying, you talked about the artificial sunrises and sunsets on board the mothership. Do they ever experiment with extreme weather so that their children can experience a blizzard? Also, do other planets experience weather that we don't have here? Scalding hail, for example.
That's a great question, Lauren. To my knowledge, the A's haven't done that on their ships. I don't know why they would, number one. Number two, as far as other planets, are we talking third density, fourth density, fifth density? Because you're dealing with different rules of nature on each level, all right? They're not the same as third at all. But if you're talking about other planets with third density, I would think they would all have some type of weather. Just from what we've seen in our own solar system, each planet can have its own weather that would be completely unique to itself. Jupiter, Saturn, they have weather on their surface, and yet their moons have completely different weather that's separate to each moon, all going on simultaneously. So I think a lot of that has to do with the nature of the atmosphere, with the magnetic frequencies of each planet, whether they're hollow, whether they're a real genuine sphere that's solid with a core. Most of them are hollow, just for the record. That's the only information I can give you at this particular point. I don't know everything. I don't know anybody who does. But those are great questions. Experience would tell me yes, they do have weather. Why the A's would make it snow when it's not part of their fifth dimensional reality whatsoever would make no sense to me. The children would never live in that type of an environment because that's not a natural weather phenomenon that would occur maybe in fifth density. Okay, the rules for nature are different because of the frequency band that it encompasses.
Okay. Now this is interesting. We just watched this film a few weeks ago, The Mothman. Have the Andromedans ever mentioned the Montauk experiments or any connections to the Mothman sightings as seen at the Silver Bridge disaster?
No, no, they haven't. I've never mentioned them either. Um, I never have either. I'm familiar with the Montauk Project. Uh, a lot of the time when I'm with them, I'm in an amazingly positive field. And when I'm there, nothing of my reality on Earth goes with me. It's like I leave it all behind. Okay? Especially the bad and the ugly. It doesn't resurface until I'm no longer in their presence and I'm back on the surface. And after a few days, after an extended contact, and my frequency, when I come back, my frequency, my energetic field is bigger than this room. And it takes a couple of days for it to come back to where it normally would be here on Earth. And I typically, for those 2 or 3 days, isolate myself if it's at all possible, because I don't want to pick up everybody else's shit, their negativity, their anger, all of that, because I feel it all when I first come back. So I isolate myself and I keep myself in a really good positive space. I will keep the lights dim. I will light candles. If I have a fireplace, I will keep a fire going. I create a very spiritual nest for myself, something that's very nurturing, to cocoon myself until my field shrinks. It's very hard to keep the field open all the time. I've not been able to. 3 days is pretty much the max. And once it shrinks by the late third, fourth day, fourth morning, then I can go back outside and I'm not picking up everybody else's stuff. Because, people are very powerful. They don't realize how powerful they are with their projection of energy. It's really quite extraordinary. So that's it. Okay.
All right. Well, this is kind of connected. From William and Stephanie Pepper, many people who have had near-death experiences have described experiencing a realm of blissful, unconditional love. Is that similar to what you experienced when in the presence of the A's? Would you say they have a better knowing and connection with the isness or source? Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're angelic. I don't know any other way to say this, but they're like angelic. By any definition we have down here, they could be looked at as angelic, even though they themselves would not say they are or would ever define themselves as being angelic. But in my opinion, they're angelic. Would I call that heaven? It's heaven enough for me not to want to come back. Okay, for real. That's not an option. It's not an option. If it were an option, we wouldn't be doing a webinar. But it's heaven enough for me. Yep. Yeah. Based on biblical definitions, it absolutely qualifies Fifth density absolutely qualifies. That's a good
Okay,
question.
well, go
That's a good question. I've never been asked that before. That's great.
in the staying in 5D. Is there no time in higher dimensions, or is there still time in, for instance, 5D, but it works in a different way versus 3D? If there is no concept of time at all, then that would suggest that a big bang where everything happened in an instant.
Okay, well, the only way I can answer that question is, and I don't know about who asked that question.
Bjorn.
Bjorn. Okay, good question, Bjorn. They on their motherships, they have a cycle of night and day. So they have time. However, if you were to apply their time to our time, they say that one of their days is the equivalent to 33 of our days. Okay? Now, in our time, I was there 91 days. In their time, I was there 3 days. You see, actually less than 3 days. You can do the math, and it makes sense to you, but to actually experience it, it doesn't make any sense to you. Because, your mind says, well, 3 days or 2.5 days. But that was actually 91 days to me, and my sleep cycle is such as what it is that we do here on Earth. Okay, they're up all that time doing their work, playing, making love, whatever it is that they're doing, while I'm snoozing. Okay. In fact, I've told the story, and I think I've shared it on the web, where several women approached Mornay and wanted to know if I was okay because I had to sleep so much. And he had to explain to them that our cycle, our Earth resonance sleep cycle patterns are completely different, and the time is so different as well. And once they understood that, they were fine. They didn't worry about me. It's one thing to talk about it. It's a completely different thing to actually experience it. Okay. So, there's still a lot of things I'm still trying to wrap my head around. And I do, I do spend some time contemplating these things and, trying to figure them out and put them into words that, anybody could understand. But when I look at all the time that I was there, and I look at it from their perspective, I was there for a weekend, literally, 2.5 days, or just over 2.5 days. I was there for a weekend, in their perspective. Where for me, it was 91 days and I was ready to move in. Give the car away. I was ready to move in, just a sleeping bag. I didn't care. So, it's another thing to live it. It is.
Okay, well, coming back down to earth, from Jason Penner. With the House Bill HR 25 introducing to Congress to eliminate IRS and so much, much more, do you have any more information about this, when this may be happening really quickly?
My understanding is that it was introduced last Monday or Tuesday, so to the House. So I don't know if it's in committee yet or not. But who wouldn't do it? I mean, let's look at this. Any money the IRS collects does not go to the United States Treasury. Or I should say, the payments are made to the Treasury, but then it is sent from the Treasury using the SWIFT system to offshore other accounts. Okay? That money doesn't stay with the United States government or the United States Treasury. Okay? It is sent overseas. So when you have Elizabeth Warren calling for a 70% tax and a 5% wealth tax, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that young freshman from New York, 70% tax. None of that money comes to the United States. We don't get it. So they're cabal, because only the cabal would want something like this. Because if you're taking money out of the system, the government has to borrow the money again from them at a percentage rate. All right, so it's perpetual debt. It is perpetual debt. And only a banker would want someone in perpetual debt. Okay, so these two are cabal. I mean, George Soros paid for Cortez's campaign. So she's indebted to him. And Elizabeth Warren, she's been there for a while. I am sure she has compromised herself more than once with big interest, banking syndicates, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, etc. Because only a cabal person would want something like this. So, I mean, that should tell you right off the bat who these people really are. Their mouth says America, America, American citizens, yeah, but their actions are, we're going to do this, and we're telling you that it's for your own good, but we're really fucking you over. Pardon me for that. So I hope it happens. I mean, again, who would vote for it? We don't get the money anyway. Only the cabal would vote for that. And, the tide is turning. The further the progressive liberal Democrats go left, the further they go off the reservation. The mainstream Democrats, the semi-conservative Democrats, they're going to start to lean a little bit closer to the right here. I hope it passes. I do. I think with Trump talking about the Federal Reserve, abolishing the Federal Reserve, nationalizing it, and integrating it to the U.S. Treasury, the talk about a new currency, a debt-free currency, gold-backed currency, I think there's a real possibility that this could be pulled off. And I don't think it would take long. I think if the stars align and the circumstances are right, I think this would be an absolute bipartisan issue. Because every American would benefit from it. Every single one. So, good question.
All right, just in case this wasn't covered, what is happening with the gold? This is from Karen. What is happening with the gold that has been taken back from the Rothschilds and others? Is it being used for a new currency?
Yes. It's called the USN, United States Note. It is currently digital. My understanding is that it is being traded. It is being used digitally between countries, government to government. It has not gone public yet. I would not be surprised if it isn't mainstream sometime before the beginning to mid-April. I think we'll see it before then. Because that gets rid of the cabal once and for all. You take away the source of their power, which is the money, the indebtedness, it's over. That's what Kennedy was trying to do. And his executive order, John Kennedy's executive order 11110 or 111110, I think it was June of 1963, is still on the books. It's still there. It's just everybody's ignored it. Okay. President Trump is not one to ignore something like that. He's just not. He is a scrapper extraordinaire. So, if you could get rid of the Fed and take away the power of their purse from them, you've essentially cut their throats. They're done. At least here, they're done. So you should educate yourself about that. It's fascinating what's going on behind the scenes. February 5th, the beginning of the Chinese New Year, the Chinese are introducing publicly the gold-backed yuan. So that's going to put pressure on other countries to have to do the same thing, to have an asset-backed currency. So, and China's going to do it. They're very serious about it. So there's a lot going on. Good question. Thank you.
Okay. Now, this is from Bjorn. Have the A's talked about if the 21 races of DNA experimentation on Earth humans has been completed, or when it is expected to be completed? And if completed, have they talked about the result?
No. No, they haven't. It's been 2 months since I've heard from Warren A. Our time. It's a day and a half for him. Okay. But no, I haven't. That's a really good question, though. Bjorn, I will ask that question. Just give me a second to write that down. All right, I'm going to move that question to the top of the list because that's a good one. I'd like to know that myself. Thank you very much. Okie dokie.
Your religious history webinars were my favorite of 2018, and I was wondering if you had insider information on John of Patmos or Flavius Josephus.
Flavius Josephus. And John of Patmos? I'll tell you what. I'll go through the notes because I have them in piles. History I've already gone through, historical figures, and I'll see if I can include this in the next webinar. Okay, I'll do that, and I'll make it short and sweet. But yeah, let's do that for the next webinar. Okay, I'll add that. That's good. Thanks for the feedback. I mean, that's the first feedback I've gotten about those. That was more than That's the whole religion thing. That's that could be quicksand, real quick. And that's an area that I try to tread carefully because people have invested so much of themselves in that. But I will see what I can come up with on that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Here's from Chanta. If they were to play out either the second coming or a fake alien invasion using holograms, is this a physical manifestation or more like an image projection? What I mean is, can a plane pass through Or say if someone were to throw a rock at Mr. J.
Okay. It would, depending upon which one, I would think if it was a fake alien invasion, there would have to be some craft, which would probably be our own, or wrecks that they've been able to repair and get working that belong to other civilizations. Something they didn't care got destroyed. If it was a second coming, again, I would think that at some point a physical entity would physically have to manifest somewhere on the planet. I got 3 minutes. Would physically have to manifest on the planet. Now we know that cloning's been going on for quite some time. It's far more advanced than they would ever want us to know. In fact, they were doing cloning in the early 70s. They could only last a couple of weeks at that time. Now my understanding is they can last up to 6-8 months before they have to be replaced. But they're good. They're very, very good at that. I just, part of me just thinks, why would the benevolence even let them go there, But maybe these things need to play out. I just don't know. I don't know the entire scope of everything and the reasons for everything. But this group is, they're capable of anything. They really are. And we have to be mindful of that, levels of betrayal that have already occurred towards humanity are staggering. So why would they stop now? Folks, I have to go. The next person who has this room is here. I love you. Be safe. And I'll see you in 2 weeks, I think. Okay, it looks good. And thank you again for your time and for your support, all of us here. Really appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you. We wouldn't do it without you. And just stay awesome. All of you, just stay awesome.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you found it insightful, please like the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future updates. If you have any questions relating to today's video, please also leave them below. We read all the comments and take on board what our viewers have to say about Alex Collier's work. Remember, your support helps Alex Collier's knowledge and the messages from the Andromedans reach more people. If you'd like to support the channel even more, you can give us a super thanks tip by clicking the heart icon with a $sign. It really helps our team bring you more content. Also, be sure to visit alexcollier.org to sign up for our regular email newsletter. It's the best way to stay updated with the latest news, exclusive content, and upcoming live webinars. For the latest insights from Alex Collier, check out alexcollier.live. And if you want to explore over 250 past webinars, head over to alexcollier.tv. Thank you for being a part of this journey and supporting Alex Collier's work. We couldn't do this without you, and we're genuinely grateful for your support. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the vast mysteries of our universe. If you would like to see the Andromedan Contactee Alex Collier live via video stream, we hold a live online seminar every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information on upcoming live webinars, please visit alexcollier.org.